Welcome everybody to the 142nd annual town hall. It's not really annual, but and I'm excited because we've got finally we're going to see the resolution of our Big O. So once Glenn gets here, but in the meantime, let's move forward and I'll go over kind of the usual housekeeping with Mr. Lawson.
I am
Poof!
here if you can hear me.
It.
I
Yep.
can hear you, Glenn. Sound all
Wonderful.
right to me? Welcome. So, my name's John Best, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Best Innovation Group. We are dedicated to the support and growth of credit unions. You can find us online. We do all kinds of stuff like mergers, and lately we've been doing SDKs for Alchemy and Q2 and Bano and things like that. So, a lot of digital and lately a lot of AI. So, we're
Cool.
excited, love the industry, and happy to be here. And my co-host, who is just one of the most fantastic gentlemen in the entire industry here, Mr. Mike Lawson.
Oh, thank
Hi,
you, sir.
Mike.
Thank you for the kind words. I
Of
appreciate
course,
that.
they're just true. If you haven't gone and checked out CU Broadcast, I highly recommend you do because it's going to be super exciting for you to learn what Mike learns from talking to people uh,
Indeed.
slowly. He likes to talk to them slowly so
Yes.
that we can all understand, which
Sometimes
this
in
is
reverse, but yeah,
it
let's
is
look.
your gift. It is your gift to take these concepts and turn them into with great questions and important things. And
Thank you.
I kid,
Thank
but that's the truth of it. So check out cubroadcast.com for thousands of interviews. If you want
literally.
to, someday you're gonna have to run some AI on that, and like we'll have to see what we get out of it because I'm pretty sure
Ooh.
we could build one of those. Watch John go from 40s to 50s to 60s, morph into it. And of course, the most important host, the host with the most, Glenn Sarvati, is here
Yes.
today. Uh, and we've just been having, as usual, constant discussions on our back end little chat thing. So I know he's got a lot to talk about here today. Let's move forward to the next slide. I want to thank our sponsors, America's Credit Unions. They've if you've not been to one of their you know um, one of their conferences, which by the way the prize for today is admission to one of their conferences, which is very exciting for winning the bingo, which I think we have a winner. um, it's the National Association for Credit Unions. Recently, convergence of NCUA and CUNA, not NCUA, NACU,
NAFQ.
NAFQ and CUNA.
NAFQ.
And although we
Oh, yeah.
could see maybe those two getting together, who knows? But whatever discipline that you're in within the organization, whether it be operations, whether it be lending, whether it be risk, whether it be HR even or marketing, they have a conference for it where you can find your peers in this industry, which is the superpower of this industry, is meeting with other people who have either solved the problems that you are encountering or are encountering the same problems and are willing to work with you to help get even more leverage on it to solve it together. And so it's extremely valuable. And then the other sponsor near and dear to my heart, something I think everybody should have at this point, given where AI fraud is going, is Illuma. Illuma
Mhm.
Labs is a QSO. They're award-winning fintech. They just recently, I believe, won Finovate. Was
Yep.
it this year, Glenn?
I
They
think so.
did. I think,
Yep.
yeah, they
Yeah,
won two in a row, if I'm not mistaken.
two in a row. So they're a dynasty now. Um, I think that's what we call it. No, you got to get three to be a dynasty, right? You need three. I wonder if they give out Finovate rings, like Super Bowl rings. That would be cool.
Ooh,
I would
yeah.
like to. I would like to have one.
I could
You
see
need
Uh,
them
the
winning. I could see them doing a three-peat for sure.
you need the
yeah,
repeat. Exactly.
right, right. But Illuma is really valuable because it's a way to discern who you're talking to with on the call center channels and even in other areas. And he's continuing to just ramp up the service. It's a transparent way. And I can tell you, and I'm sure everybody on this call has been around this knows that fraud, particularly thanks to AI, is not decreasing in any way, shape, or form. It's ramping up and it's projected to get worse.
Yep.
So if you don't have something like this, I think it's first line protection and table stakes at this point. So check them out at
Agreed.
illuma.cx.
Yep.
All right,
Agreed.
let's move on. So, a couple things. If you're interested, we are really doing a lot with the Innovation Club. If you're looking to find like-minded people to learn about things, we have a lot of great projects going. One of my favorite projects that we're probably going to talk about maybe a little next year is we've actually used AI coding agents and built an entire team of agents to make a home banking platform. Not because we want to sell it or we have anything to do with it, more of an experiment. We just want to learn what its capabilities are, and it is rising fast. So that was a great example, and we all learned from that. We went over how it works and to understand maybe where that kind of agentic coding is going to fall with regards to credit unions and what the new sort of normal is going to be for that. And there's a lot to learn there. Quantum, yep, Jonathan was the man who is driving a lot of that forward. I see he's on the call. Jonathan, you want to just the best thing I can do is get a testimonial. You want to talk about the Innovation Club just for a sec for us? Give us maybe
Yeah, yeah,
30
sure.
seconds.
No, it's well, I think you kind of summed it up a little bit, John. It's a group of individuals that are we like to come together, we brainstorm, we come up with creative ideas, we come up with creative solutions to problems, and then the best part is, we sit down, we talk about it, and then we go and actually build the solutions or proof of concepts, and it's really exciting. And it's some of the the smartest people I've ever met are part of that group, and you will learn so much, and not only learn so much, but also be pushed to grow yourself quite a bit, and pushed to invest in your own growth, because you're sitting there listening to other individuals that are talking about things that are really interesting. You're going, okay, I really need to go and learn more about that. I need to get up to speed on some of this stuff. And it's just really exciting. So I strongly encourage anyone who's really interested in brainstorming and building really interesting solutions to some really complex challenges that I think everybody has, to consider joining the group. It's awesome.
And I'll
Oh,
just,
thank you.
this
Go
is
ahead.
Glenn. I'll just throw in my own little 2 cents on that too. It's a great group with a bunch of different types of intelligence at the table too. I mean, there's a subset of just folks who are such high skilled technologists and coders that, I could never do any of this stuff, but I love having the conversation. And they go off and they can actually bring it back to the table and say, wow, look what we managed to build in a pretty
Oh,
short period of time.
yeah, one of my favorite ones was at the last meeting. We were toying around with we were toying around with uh, whether or not we could create through a visual counter the ability to determine whether how many people were waiting in line because with some new features on the new classifiers for AI for vision, and in the time I was talking about it, Jonathan had built a really cool little prototype. And Jonathan, I think you're still expanding. So the idea was,
Yeah.
could you take the footage from Branch Camp? Well, go ahead, tell them, Jonathan.
Yeah, so the using computer vision and machine learning, can you not only you know monitor a branch line, a queue, and but also predict wait times, and also predict movements of members through a branch. So where are they going to, what are they looking for. You can do a lot of really interesting analysis with that. And to your point, John, actually I just finished my last round of fine tuning training on the vision model, so that and to basically enhance the type of object classifications you can do. So potentially we could not only use it for wait time analysis, but let's say, hey, I want to make sure I don't have a potential safety situation in my branch. Did I have somebody that just carried in something that looks like a weapon or something that shouldn't be there? And bring up an alert and say, hey, somebody needs to go review this footage and see if there's something going on. So there's tons of applications for this kind of computer vision and machine learning.
I tell you, I want to see. I would love to start using it to track the folks who are doing the synthetic identities that are
Oh, good.
getting
Yeah.
connected and be
Yeah.
able to say, is there some trend to these people? Do they do they all show up with the same, because they're being orchestrated by someone, and there's got to be some rhyme or reason to it, because identifying those folks would save us all big headache. Anyways, scan the QR code or go to Big Dash Fintech. Jonathan is one of our premier members, and there are more members on the call, and Glenn is always involved in anything I do. And so he often is one of our guest speakers, and talks to us about payments and what's happening there, because there's lots of innovation in that. So would love to have you. And what a great testimonial. Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right, let's keep trucking here. So,
how many Spotify users do we have on the call? I see a couple
I am.
hands. You've probably gotten your Spotify Wrapped and by now.
So just for fun, everybody put their Spotify age, if you've done that, into the chat.
I was pleasantly surprised that I came in at 34.
Mine nailed me. It said 54, dead on.
So I came in 10 years younger than I am, so I was really happy with that.
Yeah, it's got to be all the Taylor Swift you've been listening
of course. Yeah, I was gonna say it's my daughter's Taylor Swift library.
Let's see, 28, short by over a decade. Okay, 21, Glenn. Glenn's listening to weirdo indie pop or something.
Oh, we got another 21 right after.
Wow, Rick's apparently got your same playlist. 49. Shirley, are you 49?
I got a friend who came in at 88.
Would you tell us whether it was good or bad? You don't have to tell us your age, but you can tell us whether it was wrong or right. But go ahead, Glenn. So I think what you're going, you go with the concept.
We just played with this and decided, okay, we had, this kind of really tees us up for some of the things on the bingo card too. Let's take a look at some of the things. If you were going to do a credit unions Wrapped, what happened this year? So let's see what we got. We are now looking at 145 million members. I pulled that right off the boilerplate from America's Credit Unions. That number continues to grow. So we continue to move up. There are now 4,331 credit unions. I did not realize, I got a little bit more detail, that over half of those have low income designations, which means that we're obviously serving a population with a very specific people helping people need. There were 3 newly chartered federal credit unions this year. I've seen some reports there may even be a 4th. The bottom line is that's the most we've had in several years.
Gosh.
We're always losing credit unions. We're not bringing in a few, which is really nice.
I still want to start the Powerball Winners Credit Union. It's going to be like the charter is 10 people. Just power will be $20 billion. Everyone will get their own personal Lou Grillet to help them.
That is an interest group. Spotify likes to tell us what our favorite, our finest moment was, and I'd say it was in October when the government shut down, and I saw credit unions really leap into action in terms of providing support for people who are missing paychecks, etc. And I think that was, that's exactly when this movement's at its best, when the chips are down. Looks like 170 mergers is what Callahan is currently projecting.
I believe
I'm not exactly sure how they get that. I've seen slightly different numbers. If that were to happen, it would be about 10% more than were achieved in 2024. There is a trend that they're getting bigger, and we'll see that in just a second on the next page too.
That was
Go ahead.
That was one of my takeaways for 2025. Was the mergers not only just merging, but the size?
Exactly.
Like size credit union, $1 billion credit unions merging with $1 billion credit unions, that type of thing. So yeah, that was my takeaway.
You ever play that game 2048?
Yes.
So it's like a swiping game where you're just putting numbers together. So if you get two tiles, then they become 4. If you get 2, but you can't. You have to be like ones. 2 4 tiles become 8. 2 8 tiles become 16, and you're trying to get up to like a Tetris. I think that's what we're going through, but because they're going to have to get bigger because all that's left is bigger credit unions.
Right.
That's sort of the thing. But what Glenn and I were marveling at, and the next slide we'll talk about this, I think. How are we counting these? Are we counting these as NCUA approved, or do we count them after they actually happened, after legal day 1?
That's the challenge.
Or operational day 1? I don't know.
There's not one good source of info. You can go by the announcements. You can go by when they're approved. You can go by when they And there's, whether a lot of them that get announced don't actually happen. So,
That's true.
it's kind of difficult to get the full, but the best number is we do know how many different credit unions are issuing call reports.
Well, wouldn't NCOA have that
31
information?
is pretty solid.
Wouldn't NCOA have that information, like the final approved merger, or?
They do, but just trying to keep it reconciled, and they're very slow. They don't even have Q3 out yet.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Wow. They're always a quarter behind.
At least.
All right.
Next slide. I think that this was an amazing, this just shows the tech forward angle that more credit unions are taking. It was the second fund that Circle put out. By definition, what they invest in is QSOs. They raised $360 million from credit unions, which is burning a hole in their pocket right now and being put to use. I'm not sure how much of it's actually been deployed yet with with QSOs, but that'll be driving a lot of the new innovation going forward. This one surprised me too, and this is directly out of the NCUA data that's on the website. Business lending is now over $175 billion across the credit union system, and I didn't really know how to interpret that number, but I looked back and saw that as recently as 2019, it was only like 85. So I don't know how much of that, and we're going to talk about bank acquisitions that might be worth fueling some of it, but we are clearly getting deeper into, I have to assume, small business lending, but business lending.
That's encouraging.
That's our new genre that we're starting to listen to. 14 of us pissed off the trade associations for banks by acquiring banks.
I think Harborstone Trading is a majority of those. They seem to be buying banks left and right. So,
but at the end of the day, it's still a drop in the bucket. I mean, it's still only about 1 out of every 10 or 11 of the mergers.
And they're approved by the bank. So what's the big one?
That's exactly.
They approve it. So, and they like it because it's a cash deal.
Well, and not only that, but it creates more demand. So even if a credit union isn't the one buying it, then another bank is probably buying it for more money.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, it's the trade associations that don't like it because they lose a member. It's not the bankers, or they wouldn't be selling to them. They always have a choice of who they sell to.
Boo-hoo.
The one mega merger, as we talked, and this is overall a trend, Mike, as you pointed out.
Yep.
In fact, one of those I think is right in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, my two credit unions, San Diego County and CalCoast, are merging. They're going to become. I think they're going to be 16 billion when it's all done.
Yeah, and it's they're one is significantly bigger than the other, but they're both multi-billion-dollar credit unions. So that's a significant one. But the biggest of the bunch was Wings and Ent. And again, that's announced. I don't think it's technically approved yet, but I've heard nothing to indicate it's not going to happen. And John, you already mentioned you've already been getting communications from because I believe you're an Ent member, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, they had their vote, and we also saw some interesting news about that where there was some news about payments to the executives, but
yes, I did say that's the sticky kind of unpleasant part of this. Shirley, I saw that same report that you did in CU Daily, if I believe I'm not mistaken. I don't know if you saw it anyplace else.
I did not see it.
I have not been able to find any other reference to that, including my good friend AI, that claims to me it's still going on. And I've found AI to be wrong before. So
where did you hear that?
It was reported by Frank Diekman earlier this week.
Oh, Frank did.
But when I went out and tried to search for any other sources, I couldn't find them. So I'm not really sure what to make out of that one. Okay, then this is the big one. We already talked about age, but we thought maybe for credit unions we might go with a shoe size based on everything that we've done so far. So we believe that based on everything we've been talking about, the credit union average shoe size is, drum roll please, 12.5. And why is that?
Yeah.
Because we're already covering plenty of ground, but we've still got room for growth in there. That's my big number for today. Digital and First Tech, and again, that's another interesting one. Technically, that got announced in 2024, and it's still waiting to be consummated, from what I know, unless I missed it and it actually did close. So that's to the point that that we were talking about before. That's where it gets tricky trying to really capture. When do you actually report these, and when do the numbers become solid? But anyway, that's just a little bit of fun with our credit union wrapped. And Up. What is this?
Is this digital First Tech?
Is that okay? Is that good? Okay, breaking news. Wonderful.
Thank you, Randy.
Yeah, so just before we leave this Wrapped topic, so I just a fun story because I wanted to throw it out there. So Glenn and I are going back and forth about this particular town hall, going over things, and I had just gotten my Wrapped and was, like I said, disappointed to find out that I was, 54 and uh, Led Zeppelin was in my list. But that's because I watched that special on Netflix and I got like kind of attuned to him for a little bit. But anyways, so I said, hey, I was thinking about Wrapped. Wouldn't that be cool if we did it for credit unions? Now, what I meant was I think it would be cool if credit unions did it for their members. I think that Wrapped trend could be pretty cool. It's a very good use case for AI and generative AI. And I thought it would be kind of fun to have a marketing approach for that. That if credit unions were to sort of and shoe size was sort of our way to maybe not offend people, but I also came up with the shoe style, which actually was more fun. Like, hey, if you're spending all your time at, what is it? What's the name of the place where REI? Maybe you get a hiking shoe, and if you're spending, a lot of your time doing DIY and you're off at Home Depot and it looks like that's who you are. I don't know, some fun stuff like that. But I do believe that, that actually could be a pretty cool selling point. But then Glenn pinged back and came up with this, but then we both thought, I wonder if we could just take all the NCUA information and create like a Wrapped for every credit union, like have it auto generate like via AI. So just something we were kicking around, but I thought for our marketing people that are on the call that I just think that Wrapped kind of approach would be fun.
Sounds like an innovation club project to me.
It really does. Yeah, it's a pretty easy use of generative AI to make that stuff, and a fairly safe use if you give it good parameters. So interesting. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. So thanks, Glenn. Thanks for taking the time to put this together and for listening to my wild, crazy ideas.
And for Melissa and Madison too, for putting the slides together.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Everything you see is not me and Glenn. It's really much better and smarter people than us, more talented.
So the bingo card, and we do, I don't think we're stealing our thunder by saying we do have a winner. We have another winner still coming because I believe we have the right to give out 2 prizes, and we'll figure out a tiebreaker if another square doesn't wind up giving us a second winner by the end of the year. But we thought we'd run through as a way to basically kind of recap the year, the things that happened that maybe happened that we should have kind of all assumed they would have all along, some that happened in ways differently than what we expected, and just as interestingly, some things that didn't happen that were on the card. And again, open discussion. So let's talk. These are the ones that ticked off early and were slam dunks as far as I'm concerned. We didn't put a free space. You know how usually when you play bingo, the middle space is a free space? I think Trump attacks the Fed should have been the free space. It happened early, it happened often, it continues to happen pretty much on a weekly basis. So that one got checked off very quickly. And something tells me it's not going to stop with the changeover in Fed governors over the course of the next several months too. I've lost count of how many additional sports stadiums have got credit unions have bought the naming rights to.
We also decided that it's not just football.
No,
we said sports, and so because while I was traveling around, I happened to see, I drove from Colorado Springs to here, and I saw several like minor league stadiums that were supported by credit unions, which I think is really cool. I wish I was thinking some credit union needs to grab up that Savannah Banana guys. They seem to have it going on right at the moment.
They don't even have a stadium.
But what's that?
Albert says he's got a free space. I didn't think there was. That's interesting. We'll have to go back and look.
Yeah, for sure.
And it looks like you have bingo. Okay, we'll take a look at that, Albert, because you're not the one that we found. So there we go. There's John's shoe too in the
one
chat.
of my many shoes.
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's a couple soccer teams. I believe I just saw in the press recently a lacrosse team now has a credit union naming right on it as well. Colleges, they're all over the place. I think it was probably a foregone conclusion. I mean,
Well, they're getting into NIL as well. So like I know UCLA, like Westcom and UCLA have a partnership with NIL.
oh, really? Oh, wow.
Oh
I
yeah.
didn't know about that.
Oh yeah.
Which is an interesting one. I'm trying to think of how the sponsorship aspect for Westcom works there.
Lou, I think we should try to get Suncoast in the UFC.
Oh,
I
there you
think
go, Albert. We'll take a look at that afterwards. That's very interesting.
Suncoast just bought the naming rights to um, Suncoast Credit Union Arena at Florida Southwestern State College in Fort Myers,
that's right.
and Suncoast Credit Union Field, formerly Riverfront Stadium, for the Tampa Bay Sun FC women's soccer team.
Cool.
Very cool. And our UFC fighter, Michael Lawson,
Oh yes.
sponsored. You wait till you see his shorts. They're very simple.
Octagon.
Not a pretty picture, John. Not a pretty picture. I think that sponsorship will be going away quite quickly once they see that.
All right, we'll keep going. I'm just giving you guys a hard time.
The Discover Capital One deal was originally announced in early 2024 and appeared to be on the ropes for a little while, but with the new administration coming in, that got cleared pretty darn quickly. So again, that wasn't too surprising by the time we started this year, I don't think. Probably also not surprising that we wound up with a new CFPB director. We actually have had the leadership there, I think, change hands 3 times now. And now we're probably in wind down mode, which will be an interesting thing to look at over the course of the next couple of months as well. And that ties to the next one, the CFPB whiplash. Things that got supposedly were final rules toward the end of 24 got rescinded, or things that were being contested in court. The government threw up their hands and said, "No, we're not going to contest that. We agree. It's a stupid thing." So we've gone back and forth on that. We mentioned credit union mergers. We had a bunch of different levels that we considered. Would there be 80? Would there be 120? Would there be 150? I believe we're going to check off another one, but we've got 80 confirmed at this point. As I said, it was Callahan that actually had an estimate of 170 by year end. I don't know if we're going to make it to that, but we will find out.
By this year or 2026?
This is 2025.
Gosh, I don't think we're
Yeah, because again, they were working. The 80 was only for the first 2 quarters. I guess they're basing it on things that have been announced that they assume. Then again, when the government shuts down for 35 or 40 days, or whatever it was, that may have, increased the backlog and the waiting time too.
Mm-hmm.
I've also seen different numbers on the credit union bank acquisitions. I've got the folks at America's Credit Unions only had 9 listed. I've seen 11 and 14 in the press. I've decided that we're going to take credit for the 10, but we assume there could be 10, 20, or 30. But I got a feeling we're stalling out on the low end of what we thought might happen. And I think we can always assume almost any year there will continue to be a battle over credit unions' tax-exempt status.
Oh, yeah.
And that certainly happened this year again.
That's a given.
So those were the gimmies, I think, if you had them on your card.
He definitely had a free space.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have to go back and look again, but I mean, we're going to check your card too, Albert. So then there's a bunch that got more interesting. And John, why don't you talk? Because we had Bitcoin as a reminder. It went on a big run in the late part of last year, actually just before the election, and I think came into this year at roughly about the 100,000 mark, maybe 95, something like that.
Just under 100.
And it basically, we had a series of kind of milestones of, did Bitcoin hit the 125 mark? Did it go down to the 75 mark? And the answer was yes, it did both. It was very volatile. John, you follow it closer than I do. So why don't you talk about that a bit?
Yeah. So, we always do predictions in our podcast. So for those of you that, listen, I've been actually right for the last 2 or 3 years. And I think part of the reason that I've been able to sort of see it as a prediction is understanding it as a financial instrument. Was really important because over time, understanding that people are using it to diversify their stocks and whatnot. But that has all changed. And so there was kind of a strong rally. We hit some new all-time highs. We recorded levels above 123,000 in mid-year, right? this was, regulatory clarity. So we saw, some clarity in the Genius Act around stablecoins. And so it had significant gains, but it was also influenced by the stock market and the fear of the tariffs and things like that. So people were sort of looking for a way to hedge what was going on in the stock market. And there's some IPOs that helped it along this year. Coinbase, uh, Circle being another one that were positive and also moved that forward. But then we hit this high in July, and all of a sudden we keep cranking, but we hit like a, a high in October of 126,000. But after that peak, we get a correction, 30% from where we were, all the way back down to the high 80,000 range by mid-December. Um, the correction wiped out close to $1 trillion in market cap. That's crazy how much that can swing. I mean, that would have been front page news for any stock market, years ago. So where are we today? Well, we're right at about 86,000 today. We had a big high today. I think that today's high was 89, almost 90,000. So it's climbing, which is kind of not unusual at the end of the year for a couple reasons. One, believe it or not, people use Bitcoin to buy Christmas gifts. And so you start to see one of the things that can sometimes drive the Bitcoin market is use. And remember that the ledger is available for everybody to see. So we can see institutional flows, we can see, what's happening, and we can we could speculate that there's sentiment around that people are going to continue to use it because they're taking it. But there were also some other big drivers. One was it was very sensitive this year again to the Federal Reserve decisions. So interest rate expectations had some effect on it, which is kind of new for this particular asset. That didn't happen before. And then there were also large outflows from the government, who was sitting on massive amounts of Bitcoin seized from Silk Road and other law enforcement related issues that they are still deciding. And then they decided about mid-month or mid-year, which also drove it up, to do the Bitcoin reserve. And so that drove it up again. But there's still fear. And because it's now positioning itself, we saw a lot of profit taking. That's what everybody, kind of feels like happened in October. You're going to have to tune in for what I think about next year, but I've got a crazy, where I think it's going. I'll say it. I think it's going to hit above 200,000.
That's crazy.
Now no one has to tune in next Tuesday to the podcast, John. Come on.
But I won't tell you why until you tune in.
Buy now.
Hey, don't take my word for it. I mean, I've been wrong before. So summary, January to June, we rock. Mid-year, we hit all-time highs. Everybody's thinking things are good. We got a Bitcoin repository. And then October, everybody goes, all right, well, I think this is as high it's going to get. I'm going to take my money. And they run off with it, which drops us down to 85, 90,000. With year-to-date returns being slightly negative for some folks who invested, a lot as it was pulling together. But overall, it's a pretty volatile year.
And speaking of that volatility, I mean, everybody's favorite stock and, kind of the one that people follow as an indicator for AI is NVIDIA. Thank you, Jonathan. We need that disclaimer in there. John always puts that in when he talks about Bitcoin on the podcast, but he didn't do it today.
I did. I said, don't listen to me.
Don't listen to me. I'm not sure if that qualifies.
These are just words that come out of my mouth. I have zero. If you're buying it because I said, do you deserve what you get? No, I'm just kidding. But no, don't listen to me.
But NVIDIA, which, has gotten so much attention and is responsible for a lot of the stock market appreciation, not only this year, but the last couple of years, Again, the thought was, is it going to, decline? Was it already too frothy at the beginning of the year? Is it going to continue its run? Again, it's a little bit like Bitcoin. The answer is yes. It dropped by 10% from its January 1 price, kind of around the time that the tariff kind of turmoil was the worst. Possibly because it was, and that's even changed now too, that they were prohibited from selling their higher quality chips to China. And suddenly they have the ability to do that. That happened much later in the year. So it did take that hit. It fell more than 10%. But if you look at it now, it is clearly out for, and we already just made a call on it, like the election analysts do. It's going to outperform the S&P 500 unless something unbelievable happens in the next couple of weeks, because Nvidia is up like 33, 34%, and the S&P is only up by about 15 only. If we could all get 15% returns, we should be pretty darn happy.
Now, I want
So,
to point out two things with them. One, that believe it or not, NVIDIA plays a key role in the cryptocurrency blockchain market. It is their systems, the same stuff that, not the exact same stuff, but the stuff that powers AI is also what powers Bitcoin. So that's one thing. The other thing is that we still have a reckoning coming with quantum, particularly around something's going to have to happen to keep Bitcoin in the game. And from what we're hearing with the work we've been doing with IBM and Roger Grimes, who's an expert on this, it's the projection seems the goalpost is moving closer rather than further away, and so that could also affect it. But definitely, as Nvidia's stock goes to some extent, those purchases are not all AI. We presume that, but got to remember they were a major enabler of the ASIC cryptography market for running the backbones of Bitcoin and other solutions like that. So for blockchain, including Ethereum and pretty much all of the cryptocurrencies and blockchain use cases.
the government shutdown was another weird one. Again, when we were doing this originally in January, I think, John, you may have even said this. This is probably, it looked even more of a slam dunk than the Trump attacks the Fed in terms of a free space. Because if you remember, the government was supposed to shut down on January 31st. And that's what we were referring to when we
Yeah,
did
we
this.
figured that was the one that would get the space. We tried to throw a gimme in there.
And it didn't happen, and then it did. And then it happened, once we built up the pent up demand, we shut it down for a long time. So it got checked off, but not in the fashion that we thought it was.
I predict 2 next year.
Oh boy. Well, we got another one coming up at the end of January. It's another deadline, right?
Well, and I think all of it's going to revolve on what happens in the House. But yep.
Yeah. Fed, this turned out to be a gimme, and the reason I kind of put it on this slide was FedNow volume triples. I mean, again, you're coming off a pretty small base. FedNow volume tripled already by their Q3 numbers. If you look at their trajectory, they're probably going to process 5 times as much volume in 25 as they did in 24. That's still a drop in the bucket compared to all the other payment types, and it's even a drop in the bucket compared to RTP, the clearinghouse's solution as well. But the bottom line is they're growing, and they're growing nicely, and we'll see where that goes.
Is
And
that
then we
send
talk.
and receive or just send or receive? What's the,
It's the
do we
total
know?
number of transactions. Obviously, every single transaction has to have both a sender and a recipient.
Right.
If there were, and the vast majority of folks who are in market are still receive only. I think we can kind of assume that if there were more senders out there, that number would be going up more quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we talked already about the major fintech IPOs. The two that really come to mind for me are Chime and Circle. And Circle went through the roof, and their stock went up about 5 times over the course of the first month or so, which I think everybody knew was not a long-term sustainable number, but it still performed well. Chime had a little early pop and then fell below its original price, so that one is not quite as happy a story, but it does seem to have rallied a bit, and it's doing fine. Nothing exciting, but there were others as well, but those are the two that kind of jumped out at me. Next slide, Melissa. these were some of the ones that did not happen that I think are just as interesting as the ones that did. If you remember late last year, it sounded like X money was going to be a thing. Now, Elon was really talking it up. They struck a deal with Visa. X has some kind of I'm not exactly sure what status it has now, but some type of a partnership alliance with Visa, which kind of said they were moving down the path. Then he got a little bit sidetracked with Doge and things like that. And I haven't heard a whole lot about it recently. So I'm not exactly sure where it stands right now, but I think we can safely assume it did not happen. Everybody's favorite campaign promise that came from both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, Trump first, was capping interest rates on credit cards at 10%, which, I think everybody kind of thought that's ridiculous. But hopefully people figured out it was ridiculous because nothing's ever really come of that. There was some talk early in the year that it might get like baked into some bills, but that one didn't seem to get it very far. Credit CAD. I think, I guess a lot of us probably think that Dick Durbin's a CAD, so I guess that's a good typo. But the Credit Card Competition Act, again, there was agitation thinking that might come up again. It hasn't. Never know. It could come up at any moment. I think the ink is, he's walking around the halls of Congress with the paperwork to see if he can slip it in at some point. There was also talk late last year, and this kind of revolves around Ukraine and everything else too. I see something about the Credit Card Competition Act in the chat. It's too small for me to read, but
From Albert.
We'll come back to that, and I'll just mention
the Credit Card Competition Act was brought to a potential Senate vote in May 2025 as an amendment with the larger stablecoin bill, the Genius Act. While there was a strong push for a vote, it ultimately did not pass as part of the final Genius Act.
Right. That was his biggest push, was to get it kind of baked into, whether it was must pass legislation or at least popular legislation, it would get tucked into. I do remember that it got close, but never actually got included. I have not heard any more about the BRICS countries. I think that was much overblown late last year. That's why you didn't get bingo. Okay. The BRICS started talking about coming up with their own system. And if you read the details, it was really Russia pushing that one. And India and China basically said, yeah, we agree to have a task force look into it. And I'm guessing they're still looking because I haven't heard any more on that one either. We did not see crypto commercials return to the Super Bowl, probably because everybody was spending their money on AI. I thought that maybe crypto would but we did actually check one off. I think there were 5 different AI-based commercials, and that was one of the numbers that we checked off too. JB, was the nationwide ATM outage, was that yours? I forget where that came from, but there was the concern, and it's happened before in the UK a couple times. I think got off, at least as far as like big incidents along those lines, we got off fairly lightly this year, I'd say. John?
I think he dropped off.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
okay.
That's all right. You're doing great, Glenn.
And then when we talked about this one already, we have not checked off the 10 billion plus credit unions being merged together. Ent and Wings were
Can we check that off now?
No, they're both.
They're still
at the time of the deal. They were both sitting between 9 and 9.5.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Which to me, you could almost check it off.
Yeah.
And maybe by the time it actually happens, they might have gone over the 10 billion mark. But as we've talked about before, there's all kinds of new regulation that comes along with a 10 billion threshold.
Being a 10 billion. See, okay, now that's another reason why the mergers of larger credit unions is another such a big issue. Is a lot of credit unions want to get over that $10 billion hump. If you're kind of ranging in like 7, 8, and you're looking to grow, or you're in that area. And this is what a credit union CEO told me, is that they'll merge, so they leapfrog the 10 billion, so they're 15 or 16 or whatever, so they can handle whatever regulations come their way.
There's very little value to going to 10.1. Yeah.
Exactly.
If you're going to go over, you can manage it to stay just under, then go big. Because that's
he was telling me this is why you're seeing these bigger credit unions merging like this. They want to get over the $10 billion hump.
If I'm not mistaken, I think San Diego was already over, but then they were just, they were kind of in that just over range.
Yeah.
And then by adding Cal Coast, I think that would have taken them back. I think that added another 3 billion or so. Lou, it looked like you were smiling at that one. You kind of heard similar situations.
Yep. We've discussed that also.
Yeah.
Because we're at Suncoast is at 19 billion, and there's another threshold at 20 billion where extra scrutiny by NCUA examiners takes place.
Oh,
wow.
really? I didn't
Did
know
not
that.
know that. I didn't know that either. I thought it was just 10.
Albert, you make a good point. If digital, is, we could probably give that credit at that point because, like I said, I think it was announced in 24, but if it didn't happen until 25, if that puts anybody over the threshold to have bingo, then I think that probably is fair game. Is Melissa still out there? We can.
I'm still here.
I-
I'm sorry I had to
I
step
am
off
here.
for a second, but I'm here.
Okay, we can go to the next slide. I think this was the one that kind of tipped us over with a winner. The very next one. And JB, this is another one of yours again too.
Yeah,
And for a while there, I was not exactly sure what this was going to look like, but I mean, if you've noticed, Venmo has come out hard now in terms of their promotion. And you may have seen, again, don't forget PayPal owns Venmo as well. PayPal just applied to become an industrial loan corporation. So they're looking for a form of a banking license now too. But Venmo has, John, you sent that one screenshot. What was it? They've got deals with Target, and
Target, Walmart,
Taco
Instacart,
Bell.
and there was one other one. Let me look. It just popped. I sent the screenshot because it popped up on my actual Venmo. And
I think
then
like
also,
five logos.
yeah, they also showed up they're starting to show up as endpoints like pays inside of apps now too. Now that's not super new, but it's not directly merchant related, so we didn't count that. But this definitely was merchant related because they're tracking your spend at these merchants, which I thought was pretty interesting.
So with that being a check, I think that was what caused the first person to yell bingo, and that person was. Anybody know how to pronounce Jay's last name? Kostanzik?
You did better than I would have.
And I know Jay couldn't make it today,
Sounds
so
good.
he could correct me otherwise from South Point Financial Credit Union. But as we said, America's Credit Unions Councils has agreed that the prize was that someone can attend any of their 2026 councils for free. And I believe we still have a second one to give away. So if in the sole discretion of the judges, when we figure out
Must
which
be
other
present
ones
to
push somebody over or who comes closest, we'll award a second.
And we're gonna have Are we doing this again next year? I think we decided we were, right?
I'm game.
But next year it's not going to be bingo. I thought we decided we were going to do Yahtzee.
Five of a kind.
Yeah, you got to get five of a kind. You need five things to happen. Scott came up with it. It was his idea. So
Good
So
going, Scott.
is that Digital Federal Credit Union and First Tech, is that a done deal or where do we land with it?
Somebody put it into the chat.
Randy Stolp said,
Yeah.
Shruti, I'll go back in the thread. He
Yeah,
said Shruti announced it today.
posted it on LinkedIn today.
does that get us another one?
I don't think, because I had that one kind of teed up as a maybe, and I think we looked and it didn't push anybody else over the finish line, but we'll double check.
Yeah, I think we're going to do something. It might not be bingo. Maybe we'll have I don't know. I have to think about it. But this was fun, and it was fun to track these things, and it's interesting to see how close we got in the predictions and where these things came from. Because I remember, I don't know, I threw out a bunch of stuff just because we were trying to come up with categories, and Glenn inspires me often to come up with usually not kind of crazy things, but no, I think this was super fun, and we're so thankful for everybody that participated. We'll find our next winner, and this is our last town hall for the year.
So sad.
Yeah, we'll keep going though, because although I don't know if not one person said anything about my tombstone that I made, so I'm kind of upset.
Oh, that's a
that.
tombstone. I didn't know. I thought that
Yeah.
was just.
Yeah, somebody told me that you could never have too many guitars on your tombstone, so I mocked one up.
Good.
But I know the holidays are a precious time of year, and I just want to thank everyone who has been just consistently joining us. We get 30, 40 people every couple weeks. That's amazing,
Pretty cool.
especially for 6 years later. On I am just humbled and thankful for the people that show up and the people who contribute to this, the folks who keep coming, the Randy Stopes of the world, Mr. Mills, who's helped us all these years. Of course, Glenn, who is the heart of this, and our podcast. So we're just thankful to everyone. Mike, you've always been a partner for these things. And so we're just thankful for everyone joining. We hope you have just fantastic holidays. And, just reach out if you've got information or want us to know. But I thought this would be fun. I like the wrapped format. And so that was really cool what they put together.
I really like your idea. I think there's a marketing angle, whether it's something, I don't know if this might run afoul of any kind of advertising from the NCUA if you can't document it, but we always talk in aggregate about the amount of money and economic value we bring through the overall credit union movement. But if you could actually, point to people's lending or deposits, say you made X amount of money, you saved, more than you would have from an average institution or something like that. If you could, tie that out at an individual level, I think it could be some pretty good marketing for an institution.
Yeah. I was actually working through like, what month did you spend the most money on groceries? How many months? And I also was looking at giving points for like steps that were related to financial wellness, So I had some ideas. But yeah, I just noticed that, everybody's sort of getting that experience. I thought it would be fun to pull in. I'm always looking for ways to engage more with the membership. So
I know it's still a couple months away, but how many people on this call going to be at GAC? Mike, I'm sure I'll see you there.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I get the feeling I'm hearing more about it earlier than usual. I don't know whether they're just marketing it sooner, but I get the impression there's a pretty good groundswell that they may have a pretty good turnout in DC this year.
Yeah, we've already booked our first guest.
Oh, really?
I know. We're still 2 months out.
That's just Randy, though. He's anxious.
Yeah, it was Randy. Yeah, he was several emails. Okay, Randy. Okay. No, you're always welcome. Always welcome. Just kidding.
Well, Albert, you're definitely right. I made that mistake last year. I keep winding up staying at a micro hotel because I wait too long to book it. And,
You should try staying at a microbrewery. I think you would enjoy that more.
We might not make it to the conference.
But yeah, we'll probably do something at the conference for anybody, our kind of town hall, come and hang out. So
cool.
But yeah, I think there's just lots of good stuff going on, and it's looking forward to a good year next year. But hope everybody has safe holidays and gets to take some time and spend them with the family. It's been a little crazy lately, so
yes, indeed.
And I have a feeling with all these mergers and everything else that credit union life is not going to get any less exciting in the next 5 years, in my opinion. So especially for the folks who are the long timers that have been pulling this cart behind us for a long time, we're going to have to step it up some. So I think get the rest and be ready and to crank in the beginning of the new year. Except for you, Glenn. Just keep doing what you're doing. I like the coasting that you're doing.
I'm only my Spotify age is 21.
I was going to say you're only 21, so you got plenty of time. Go back and listen to some more Sleep Token and whatever else it is you're listening to that gets your age down that low.
Who's my other 21-year-old buddy out there? We've scrolled pretty far past that at this point.
No, it was I thought it was Albert, wasn't it? I don't remember.
No, I don't think so.
Rick was also 21. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So,
all
right, folks. Well, we're gonna call it. Just have a great new year, and we'll look forward to seeing you next year. Thanks to everybody who participates and is involved in this. And
thank you, John.
Big thanks to Melissa and Madison and the group that make actually all this happen. We just come on and talk. So thanks everyone.
Thanks for spearheading it, John. We appreciate you as well. You are one of the big movers and shakers in the industry. So we appreciate you pushing, being that spearhead for us.
None of us would be here without you, John.
That's true. That is true.
You say that, but I think Michael would have dragged you along. That's and I don't know if that's like a good thing or a bad thing, to be honest. But yeah, we'll take it from there. Anyways, thank you so much. Everybody have a great
everybody.
See you in 2026.